When my realtor walked into the house, it was the first time that someone completely independent looked at the work that had been done. What I saw in those photographs completely changed my understanding of this project. The angles were different. The lighting was different. And suddenly, I started noticing things I hadn't seen before. Things that had been hidden from me all along. At that moment, I still thought I was dealing with a few small problems. I had no idea how wrong I was. My realtor called me after she finished looking through the house, and the first thing she told me was about the siding. She said she had never seen anything like it. She couldn't even tell exactly what kind of material it was. It looked like some cheap mix of plastic and cardboard. She told me nobody normally uses material like that for siding. She literally asked me where Mark had even found it. And honestly, I had no answer. Then we started talking about selling the house. She told me we could list it as is, maybe around $140,000. But realistically, she said, I would probably be lucky to get around 120. That didn't work for me. By that point, I already had more than $120,000 into the house, including the purchase. Selling it at that price would mean taking a loss. So then we started talking about the other option, renting it. And that meant something completely different. She explained that before I could legally rent the house, I would have to fix the remaining problems and get an occupancy permit. That meant repairing the exterior concrete stairs. Some of the steps were chipped and damaged. And there were no railings. Those had to be installed. The interior staircase didn't have railings either. Those had to be installed too. Smoke detectors had to be installed. Carbon monoxide detectors had to be installed. The floors needed work. The baseboards had large gaps. The paint needed to be corrected in several places. There were plumbing issues. Some fixtures were leaking. The room on the second floor also needed a built-in closet if I wanted it to count as a bedroom. And then there was the air conditioning. Mark had converted the attic into living space, but the house didn't have any air conditioning at all. My realtor told me that Pittsburgh summers can get extremely hot, and that the second floor would be especially difficult to live in without AC. So that was another problem I had to solve. And while I was going through the pictures myself, I noticed something else. The shower on the second floor had been built directly under the slope of the roof. A standard shower door would never fit there. And because of the shape of the opening, even a shower curtain wouldn't really work. So now I was looking at a custom-made shower door too. She also showed me what was outside. There was a huge pile of debris in the backyard. She told me I would probably need at least a couple of dumpsters to get rid of everything. The yard itself needed a lot of work. Then she sent me a video of a large tree standing near the house. According to her, it had to be removed. She was concerned that it could eventually fall either onto my house or onto the neighboring property. So that became one more thing to add to an already growing list. Then I saw one photograph that probably said more about the quality of the work than anything else. A light switch had been installed so close to the door frame that a normal cover plate wouldn't fit. So instead of moving the switch box, Mark had cut the cover plate in half and installed it like that. I just stared at the picture. Even my daughter looked at the photos and asked me, "Who was the person doing this renovation?" And at that point, the situation was becoming pretty clear. Selling the house meant taking a loss. Renting it meant fixing everything that was still wrong and getting the house ready for an occupancy permit. Either way, I was nowhere near done. After talking to my realtor, I went back and reviewed everything one more time. I looked through her photographs. I watched her videos. Then I opened the video Mark had sent me. That's when I noticed something interesting. Although he sent me the video after our conflict, the file itself had been created on March 10th. In other words, Mark had recorded that video more than a week before everything fell apart. And this wasn't just another progress update. This was a complete walkthrough of the house. From what I could see, Mark considered the project essentially finished. At the very least, he clearly wasn't planning to do much more work. Then I compared that video with the footage recorded by the locksmiths on March 18th. And I noticed that the fireplace mantle was gone. On March 10th, it was there. On March 18th, it wasn't. Same house, same fireplace, different result. I can't tell you exactly what happened. What I can say is that I have every reason to believe that Mark removed it. As far as I know, nobody else had access to the house during that time. The mantle was there while Mark controlled the property, and it was gone when I got it back. The mantle itself wasn't important. What mattered was what it represented. Because by that point I had started to realize that I wasn't just dealing with poor workmanship. I was dealing with something much bigger than that. By that point I understood that I couldn't keep pretending that the situation would somehow fix itself. My options were simple. I could sell the house for somewhere between $120,000 and $140,000, or I could keep investing money and finish the project myself. Neither option was attractive. I spent days thinking about what to do, and then I called my lender. This was the same person who had introduced me to the realtor in the first place. He trusted her opinion, and after seeing her photographs and hearing her assessment, I trusted her too. I told him that Mark and I were no longer working together. I explained everything that had happened, and I told him that I had made my decision. I was going to finish the house and turn it into a rental property. There was just one problem. Every month I had to make an interest payment on the loan. The payment was about $860, and at that point every dollar mattered. So I asked him whether he would be willing to postpone those payments until the project was finished and refinanced. To my surprise, he agreed. He told me to finish the project first and pay the accumulated interest later after refinancing the property. That conversation changed everything. For the first time in months, I felt as if I finally had a way forward. I still had no idea how much work the house would require, but I had already made my decision. I wasn't walking away. At that point, I understood that I had no choice but to become the general contractor for my own project. Fortunately, I already had a ChatGPT subscription, so I started using it to create a plan. I asked what specialists I needed, in what order I should hire them, and what questions I should ask. But before I could do any of that, I needed to understand the scope of the work. So I hired a licensed contractor and asked him to inspect the house and prepare an estimate. He walked through the entire property, took notes, measured everything, and then gave me his answer. The estimate was almost $60,000. I was stunned. As you might remember, the original renovation budget for the entire project had been $70,000. By that point, I had already invested well over $100,000 into the house. And now I was being told that I would need to spend another $60,000 just to bring the property up to an acceptable standard. The estimate included new siding, electrical work, repairs to the stairs, railings, drywall repairs, painting, flooring repairs, debris removal, and dozens of smaller items. And that didn't even include air conditioning. The contractor also looked at the siding and confirmed what my realtor had already told me. He said that I could leave it in place for the moment if I wanted to save money. But sooner or later, it would have to be replaced. According to him, it wasn't a question of whether it would fail. It was simply a question of when. And that was the moment I realized that I needed another plan. I needed a different approach. There was no way I could spend $60,000 all at once. So I did what I had been doing ever since I came to the United States. I started learning. I used ChatGPT to figure out what needed to be done, which specialists I needed, and in what order I should hire them. Then I started making phone calls. Eventually, I found a handyman who was willing to take on the project. He walked through the house, looked at the list of problems, and told me that he could handle the work. He confirmed many of the things I had already been told. The stairs needed repairs. The railings had to be installed. The upstairs bathroom had to be rebuilt. The closet had to be added. The electrical work needed to be corrected. The floors needed repairs. And there were dozens of smaller problems throughout the house. He also agreed with both the realtor and the first contractor about the ceilings. They had been painted with glossy paint, which made every imperfection visible. According to him, the ceilings would have to be repainted. Then he showed me photographs of projects he had completed in the past. I looked at the stair railings he had built, and I liked what I saw. So we shook hands. Well, virtually at least, because all of this was happening remotely. I sent him a deposit and he started working. At the same time, I began calling other specialists.
Another major concern was the lack of air conditioning. The house didn't have any air conditioning at all. That problem had been bothering me from the very beginning. I wasn't an HVAC specialist, and I understood that the walls had already been finished, so I expected the solution to be complicated and expensive. Before making any decisions, I called a local HVAC company and asked them to inspect the house. The technician looked around and told me that the solution was actually much simpler than I had expected. Instead of installing several separate units, they could install one central system and connect it to the existing ductwork. They started working almost immediately. The entire installation took only a few hours. The total cost was $4,000. And because they understood my situation, they gave me 30 days to pay. Then they discovered another problem. The furnace had not been connected to the gas line according to code, so they fixed that problem as well. That cost me another $100. For the first time in a long time, one of the biggest problems in the house had actually been solved. But the pattern remained the same. Every specialist who walked into that house found something that should have been done differently. By that point, I had already decided that I wasn't going to sell the house. If I was going to finish the project, I needed to start thinking not only like an investor, but also like a landlord. So I asked my realtor whether she knew someone who specialized in rental properties. She recommended a local rental agent. I asked her to inspect the house, take photographs, evaluate its condition, and tell me whether there was anything else that should be done before putting it on the market. At that point, the handyman was already working on the house, so there was still time to make changes. While she was inspecting the property, we were talking on the phone. At one point, I asked her whether I should buy a washer and dryer for future tenants. She told me that it wasn't necessary. Most tenants already had their own appliances, and buying them myself would only create additional expenses and additional responsibilities. Then she suddenly stopped. She said, "Wait a second. What's going on here?" She had noticed the outlet in the laundry area. "Where's the outlet for the dryer?" I told her that the connection was already there. It wasn't. The house had a standard 110-volt outlet. An electric dryer required a 240-volt connection. She gave me the number of an electrician she trusted, and I called him. I just sat there, trying to understand what I was hearing. A young rental agent had spent only a few minutes in the house before noticing something that the person responsible for the renovation had never mentioned. I still don't know whether he overlooked it, didn't know any better, or simply decided not to tell me. But one thing was becoming painfully clear. The more people looked at that house, the more questions I had. I called the electrician recommended by the rental agent, and a few days later, he stopped by the house. He inspected the panel that had been installed during the renovation and called me afterward. The first thing he told me was that running a new line for the dryer wouldn't be difficult. A dedicated 240-volt circuit could be installed with minimal damage to the walls. But according to him, that wasn't the main issue. The panel itself needed to be redone. He also confirmed something I had already heard from the handyman who had given me the $58,000 estimate. According to both of them, the panel was simply not good enough.
The work could be done, but once again, the price was going up. At the same time, the contractor who specialized in shower doors came to the house to take measurements. Because of the shape of the ceiling, a standard door wouldn't fit, so the entire enclosure would have to be custom made from tempered glass. He told me it would be ready in about 2 weeks. Then the siding specialist arrived. After inspecting the house, he gave me another estimate, $20,000. He also told me that financing was available. I still remember sitting on a bale of hay while talking to him on the phone. At that point, I had already been sitting without a load for 4 straight days. I had just joined a new trucking company, and every day I was told that the next load would be available soon. Meanwhile, I needed money more than ever. And from every direction, more numbers just kept coming. $4,000 here, thousands more there, then another $20,000. If you're a truck driver watching this video, let me give you one piece of advice. Never work for that company. Around that time, I was still going through old photographs of the house and uploading them to ChatGPT, trying to understand what I was looking at. Then ChatGPT pointed out something I hadn't noticed. According to the analysis, some of the floor tiles appeared to be old asbestos tiles. ChatGPT pointed out the overlapping pattern of the tiles and warned me that I should make sure they had either been removed correctly or properly sealed during the renovation. Otherwise, damaged material could contaminate the air inside the house. I hadn't even considered that possibility before. And suddenly I had another problem to worry about. So I hired a specialist to collect air samples and send them to a laboratory for testing. During our conversation, I learned that he had previously worked as a building inspector. The testing process took several hours, and while the equipment was running, he walked through the house, recorded videos, and sent them to me. Then the advice started coming. Electrical work, plumbing, code violations, one detail after another. The interesting thing was that he wasn't even there to inspect the property. He was there because I was worried about asbestos. After collecting the samples, he packed up his equipment and left. Now all I could do was wait. Either the results would come back clean and I could finally put the issue behind me, or I would have another expensive problem to solve. And at that moment, I had absolutely no idea which answer I was going to get.